Welcome to the Data Cloud Podcast, Kevin. We're delighted to have you with us.
I'm glad to be here.
Hey, tell us a little bit about your role at Coca-Cola Consolidated, maybe a bit about your IT background, and what excites you about data strategy and its return to the business over the next few years.
I've been with Coca-Cola Consolidated for 20 years. I lead our business intelligence and analytics department. As of recently, I also picked up our data quality and architecture organization as well. Um, what I really enjoy about data strategy is really understanding the foundation of what we do as a data organization and making sure that we have good data, the right data, good quality data, in order for our end users to really get the best experience out of what they're trying to do to drive better results for the business.
And what have you sensed has changed about what the businesses are expecting from organizations like yours? How are you enabling organizations to be better, faster, and perhaps more accurate in their decision making?
Yeah, I would say the thing that's changed the most is the availability of the data. I think our organization is looking to have, data in the hands of our analysts throughout the organization, really empowering them to be able to be very self-sufficient. The bottling industry changes day by day, and the what we look at today may be very different the next day, and so giving them the ability to um, be more dynamic with data and ability to drill down without necessarily relying on a traditional business intelligence team is probably one of the biggest opportunities and one of the biggest pushes that we have as a data organization.
Mhm. And for our listeners and viewers, tell us a bit about Coca-Cola Consolidated. What do you do? And that way we can drill down a little bit more about how analytics is helping you and how you're developing it better.
Absolutely. So we're the largest Coca-Cola bottler in the United States. We manufacture, sell, and deliver Coca-Cola products. So not only from our digital footprint with online, but also from the brick and mortar, delivering that product to the stores and actually taking orders from those stores. That's really, what we do best.
And how long have you been in business doing this?
I've been doing it for 20 years, so this is the only industry that I've been in, and it's all been in some form of analytics or data perspective, and now having the ability to lead the data organization. It has been quite an honor.
And how about Coca-Cola Consolidated itself? How long has it been bottling Coke?
Well over 100 years. So we've been here a really long time. It's a family owned business, third generation family. So we know how to do it pretty well.
And you're regional, you're distributing around what area of the United States?
Yeah, so our footprint is on the East Coast. So from the Carolinas up to Tennessee, Arkansas, Ohio, Indiana, also in the Washington, D.C. area. So pretty much the I-95 corridor is really where we operate.
Hmm. So I have to imagine that the data that you're looking to improve includes all the things around transportation and logistics, all sorts of things around procurement, and of course, manufacturing and factory floor type of efficiencies. And then there's always the back office, typical for any business. Is it fair to say that you have a wide variety of data needs, and therefore you have to pursue a lot of data resources?
Yeah, you have absolutely right. We have a large amount of data, different types of data, where we have to, figure out how to get all that in one ecosystem, which obviously Snowflake has been the data cloud that we've been able to do that with. But not only that, also external data as well, right? So we have our day-to-day internal data, but as we move towards the future, there's even more need for external data to be smarter and be more relevant to how to serve our consumers and our employees.
Hmm. And so, as a 100-year-old plus business, there's a maturity there, but you can always do things better, right? And so, you're not looking to perhaps re-engineer your business, but to refine and improve and automate. Is that fair to say that this is a an exercise in refinement rather than wholesale change? Or maybe I have that wrong.
No, I think you have it right. I think everything we're trying to do from a data organization is adding incremental new value, unlocking new potentials. Because we've been an organization that have done things a certain way for a really long time, that creates a lot of manual processes, sometimes some inefficiencies with what our processes are and what we do with data. So I think it's definitely an incremental approach with the capability to unlock new potential.
Hmm. So all of us are very familiar with Coca-Cola, the brand and the drink. I have to imagine, is there more that you're distributing than just the beverage, or is it strictly the Coca-Cola beverage that you're bottling and distributing?
Yeah, it's just strictly the Coca-Cola beverages. We do have some trademark rights for Dr. Pepper and a few other brands, but majority of what we deliver is going to be within that Coca-Cola trademark.
Hmm. And so we all take it for granted. We go to the convenience store, the supermarket, maybe just a machine on the corner, and there's the beverage. What is it about getting that there that people perhaps don't appreciate? Is there some part of being a distributor and a bottler that maybe we take for granted or don't understand?
Yeah, I would tell you when I started, I never realized that when you go into a retailer such as a Walmart or a Harris Teeter, that most of the product that you see on the shelves is actually put up by a Coca-Cola employee. So it's a very high touch from the warehouse floor to the transportation to get it to the outlet, and then someone that's putting it on the shelves. And I think that the unique thing is the amount of detail that goes into it, right? The brand order, the number of products that's on the shelf, the flow, the look and feel, making sure everything is rotated. So there's a lot of science behind the scenes of making sure that our retailers and customers have the best experience, which obviously drives more velocity for our consumers.
Sure, and then I can't think of too many better use cases for people, process, and technology having to work tightly together and looking for the refinements across those domains. So tell us a little bit about how data science and AI now are starting to drive these improvements. What is it bringing to the table that you couldn't have done before, for example?
Well, I think first, understand the business in a different way. I mentioned how fast paced the business is and having the ability to provide quicker insights, the ability for a salesperson to walk in the store and we've already synthesized all of the information for how they're supposed to set the store, how the store's supposed to look, how we price the store, synthesizing all of that data to allow them to really focus on selling to the customer and focusing on make sure we have everything set correctly. It's just a new place that we're at versus the amount of time that they would historically spend trying to get all that data together and then to process all of that data, right? It's just real time insights to allow them to be the best that they can be without worrying about all the other stuff.
Sure. And imagine that the more automation you can bring to your drivers, distributors, with all that touch along the way, as you say, needs to bring the digital to the tactical, the tactile, even the hands. How are you bridging better, getting more people in that process, able to be, take action and work with the data? Is there some threshold that we're crossing in terms of perhaps making it conversational or using bots so that your employees can take advantage of the data to the best of their ability?
Yeah, I think that's the I'm going to call it the North Star, which we're not there yet. But um, I think the more information we can put in the hands of the sales team, the warehouse team, the more focus that they gain, the more time they understand their KPIs, their key performance indicators, and I think that's critical. I think um, minimizing the disruptions with the data outputs that we have. I think in the future, the days of standard reports and push reports that they get every morning. I imagine I walk into an outlet and it tells me all the key things about the outlet. Hey, I had a customer give me a call and they submitted a ticket because they had an issue. Hey, I'm missing these key promotional activities. Hey, I have these targeted innovation things that I want to sell in. I don't have them sold in yet. I think it's just synthesizing all of that information in a very, very real time manner, which will really unlock the selling potential for the outlet.
Yeah, that's that conversational question and an answer query, and then pursue more information and knowledge that I think is, as you say, a North Star for a lot of what, chatbots and other types of large language models are providing. Is that how deep are you into that? How much of the large language model side of AI do you use to try to bridge the gap between the data and the people?
Yeah, I would say we're at the very beginning of that journey. I think what I'm excited about is, things like Snowflake intelligence, right, which will allow for those LLMs and those bigger data models to really be put in the hands of the our employees, so they can talk and converse back and forth to have a dialogue. I think obviously we're concerned with things like hallucinations and I think the technology is getting better day by day. But I think that's where we really think that's the sweet spot, if I had to call it, where we're really able to take advantage. And then you can move away from our traditional CRMs as well, right? That have a lot of information and notes and really be able to, as you said, have a dialogue, have a conversation with the data. I think that is just a key unlock. That is our true North Star that we're approaching.
Sure. How about the way you're using Snowflake services and technologies now, and how you see that changing so that you can progress in this direction? What is it about Snowflake in particular that's paving the path that you want to take?
Yeah, I would tell you, we've taken a very organic approach to analytics and AI and machine learning. And what I mean by that is, we didn't come out the gate trying to do major investments, going out getting a lot of third parties. What Snowflake has allowed us to do is to be very natural with as they create more innovation, right? Understanding their innovation, being locked together as a key partner, and really allowing us to take our time as we're learning things like Cortex Analyst or Document AI, for example, to be able to scrub PDFs and then not even to think about all the unstructured data that we have, pictures and PDFs, and how can we scrub the data and then put that in data warehouse and then allow those individuals that deal with the data to be able to have those conversations that we're talking about. So it's been instrumental. Just to, they're doing a great job meeting us where we are in our journey. And the more they innovate, the more we're somewhat falling behind. But then the other great thing is they also allow us to give feedback, right? What works, where are opportunities, where are we dreaming at, and how can they, meet us there as well.
Kevin, thinking more about your industry, I have to imagine there's a great variety of different people that you're distributing the beverages to. Something very sophisticated like a Walmart, where they have end to end insight into their supply chains and real time data and analytics that they can rely on. But there's probably also a couple of mom and pop shops along the way and everything else in between. So that means you've got all sorts of different interfaces and processes. It could be, hey, couple of decades old and tried and true, but old. So that to me means you got a lot of unstructured and different types of data interfaces that you're dealing with. Is there anything about the way that Snowflake helps you with unstructured data that allows you to still bring this all into the digital domain that you need in order to do those analytics?
Yeah, I think that's our biggest opportunity, right? That data strategy, the ability to really understand all of the traditional systems that we have internally, and how do we get all that data out of those systems, and how do we manage traditional processes and future processes to make sure that data is a priority. Many times we have a lot of gaps because, you know, unfortunately, as valuable as data is, sometimes leaders forget about, the structure of the data and how important the downstream impacts are with the data. And then adding the ability to data share, right? So, that's a new outlet that Snowflake enables us with, right? The ability to, minimize these manual emails or PDFs and invoices and just the ability to do a data share where I can just work with that company's IT team and within days we have a data share and we're sharing data back and forth. And so I think that's an example of a capability that Snowflake is unlocking for us. It's really making the world smaller, right? As we converse with different retailers and customers, and I would say size used to matter. The scale of the customer would matter around how we can do data share. I think Snowflake is allowing us to shrink that disconnect that we historically had, no matter what size and scale the customer is, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And we talk so much about AI these days, but the cloud is still important, and we don't talk about it as much. But having the data, both centralized and decentralized, but in a common platform environment that's cloud accessible, is a pretty strong and powerful technology and capability. How is that a benefit to you all? I should think that you've got people out up and down the I-95 corridor in the southeast of the United States, a very large geographic area, and you've got drivers and trucks and machines. Is the cloud model itself also powerful for you to keep all eyes on the same page, so to speak, when it comes to data and process?
I would say absolutely. I think that's the key unlock, right, from a traditional data warehouse to a cloud data warehouse. The ability to, one, condense all our data in a structured way, including unstructured data. The ability to, minimize costs and how we do that as well, right? We historically were on SAP HANA, and it was extremely expensive to, one, store the data, and then two, to be very performant, right? And I think the cloud-based approach that Snowflake has really done a great job of, optimizing those capabilities within our data warehouse. I think secondly, not only have they optimized it, but they're always thinking about how to make us more efficient with costs, which is quite unique, right? That's how Snowflake makes money. But they're always bringing innovation, attempting to, make us much better when it comes to our compute and our data storage, which is why I think it's just such a great partnership.
Yeah, and so there's probably no better person than you to go to say, what's the metrics? How are those KPIs now returning on your investment? So do you have any, uh, quantitative ways of measuring how your approach to data and analytics and your data strategy is benefiting Coca-Cola Consolidated?
I would say sadly the answer would be no. And part of the data strategy principle that we have, and we're actually about to do this, we have this term called data dive. So we are, post 3, 4 years since our Snowflake migration. And we've done a lot of great things. And now we're at a place where we want to take a pause and go back and evaluate, do we have the right queries? Do we have the right setup? Do we have junk out there that we just have lost attention to? So we're going to take a data dive and really dive in and really partner with Snowflake and understand our queries and our costs and what does that really mean. Because I think we just have not, kept that, as a top focus. And I think, where we're going now and looking at the data strategy, that's important, especially as we begin to build our analytical capabilities and we want to invest. Making sure that our house is in order is probably, my top priority as a data leader right now.
Yeah, no, that's not uncommon at all. For very mature businesses that are very large and complex, the priorities are always in getting the job done and keeping the customers happy. And it's only when you become very sophisticated and mature in your IT that you can then take that step back and not be fighting fires, but actually getting to know yourself really well. So I think that's a very intuitive and fortuitous approach. And it's probably the first time in the 100+ years that Coca-Cola Consolidated has been around that you're actually going to get that real solid view of what's going on within the covers of your company.
Absolutely.
Any other thoughts about bringing those people, process, and technologies together? We've talked a lot about product and process, but not so much the people. Are you getting a sense that you're going to have to adjust culture or educate people or get them thinking differently about these tools as they become available? So once you get to know yourself, How do you then take action on that? Because it's the people that ultimately will be part of that payback.
Yeah, I think as an organization, we're kind of in a paradigm shift. The business wants to go really fast. They want a lot of information. We're bringing all different types of data into the data warehouse, as I spoke about earlier. I think we are in a period to really educate and create a culture around data. I think that's why that data strategy is so important. Also think we're at a place where we want to increase the empowerment of our organization with accessibility to data. Obviously, there's things you have to be concerned about. Cost, obviously, being first. Security, the safety of the data, the accuracy of the data, the quality of the data. I think part of this journey is to begin to educate. And sometimes explaining data is difficult to do because everybody just wants it. They don't really know or want to care about the downstream impacts to their decisions. And the reality is, most of the time when we have issues with data or inaccuracies of data, it's typically driven by a business process. And they may not want to accept that, but I think that's just a reality. And so I think we have to build a broad perspective. We have to educate. And then also for the people that we're empowering to access data, one of the parts of our strategy is to create a data citizen policy. So how do we teach you how to use data? How do we teach you how to leverage data in Snowflake? How do we teach you how to use the appropriate tool? How do we as an organization choose the appropriate tool for you to be able to do the things that you want to do for data? So there's a lot that we're trying to figure out around this data strategy, which is, most of it's just really educating and creating literacy around data and what we do and how we use it.
Cool. All right. Before we close out, I wonder if you have any advice for other organizations, perhaps mature businesses like yours, that are trying to get that data first culture and benefits going. Looking back with 2020 hindsight, what would you advise others to do now that you've been through the part of the journey you have?
I think the thing that we jeopardized along the way was that data strategy. Being very thoughtful in what we're attempting to do with data, not only in current state, but in future state, where do we see it going? Because, when I talk to peers and other folks in industries, I think, you know, the thing that the data scientist says all the time is that this is really bad data and I'm spending more time scrubbing the data than I am actually, writing logic and doing statistics and analytics. And so I think you have to, have self-reflection, right? What are we doing well? Where do we really suck at? And then what are the processes and procedures and strategies that allow us to kind of come to the center? And I would tell you, I don't regret. However, we kind of did a lot of guerrilla warfare as we centralized BI and as we, began to take over responsibility for more of the data assets for the departments. I think that was the right muscle that we needed to build on in order for us to be as impactful as we expect to be in the future. But the last thing I would say is it starts at any time, right? So no matter if you did it right in the beginning, if you're reactive to it, the biggest thing is you have to start and define what your data strategy is, no matter where you are, and then take it very seriously and socialize it. We can't do it alone as a data organization. We have to do it with the support of our leadership team and support of the employees that we're trying to give the data access to.
Well, great. I think that's an excellent place for us to end. Thank you so much to our latest Data Cloud podcast guest, Kevin King, Senior Director of BI and Analytics at Coca-Cola Consolidated in Charlotte, North Carolina. We so much appreciate your sharing your thoughts, experience, and expertise with us, Kevin.
Thank you, Dana. It was my pleasure.